Hey, you guys are already responding well to the video. I posted about hacking the Matrix. Thank you for watching. Again, my intention is to basically give you the love and the encouragement and the information that I never received. I was thinking about it today, like I feel like in retrospect I was like basically useless and flailing until I turned 40. So and the problem with lacking experience when you're just young, you're just lack experience, is that you don't even know, because especially when you're in your 20s, you're like, I'm hot shit. You're not. So what's her name? Tomlin talks about that. Really great comedian on Netflix. She has a couple specials. I think it's Lily. No, I forget. Anyways, I wanted to talk about something that is kind of secret. Kind of. It's just certainly not popular. So there was some, I think it was Berkeley. There was some psychological experiments that occurred, and there's a documentary about it. I'll put a link to the documentary. I think it's free on YouTube. And basically what they did was they took whatever, so many subjects, like let's say 20 subjects, and then what they did was they made 10 of them prisoners, and they made 10 of them guards. And then they're like, feel free to role play, feel free to, really get into the role, and like, here's the rules. And there's something, I think it was Socrates or Aristotle that talked about how much you can learn about someone when you play a game with them, or better yet, when you just observe someone and they think that they're playing a game, meaning they don't think that there's real life consequences to what they're doing. So anyways, again, I'll link to the documentary about it. And what it does is it basically develops the idea of something called prisoner's dilemma. Now, one of the things that I learned going through seminars and going through playing the game is that in a lot of I don't want to say churches, but like just organizations that perform the game, the role play game, as a teaching tool, will often swear you to secrecy. And the reason why they do that is so that you don't ruin the game for other people. Well, one thing that I learned in these seminars is how important your integrity is. And that's the first wave. Well, first wave is learning how important integrity is. The second wave, the correcting force, or actually the third force. First wave is action. Second wave is reaction. And then third wave is the miracle. So first action is like your life sucks. And then second wave is learning that you need to do something about it, right? And then third wave is the miracle, which is that you realize sometimes, back to integrity, sometimes you must, in order to keep your overall integrity, you must compromise, your word. Sometimes that's blowing the whistle. Sometimes that's, I forget the name, Tiananmen Square, where that, I don't even know if it was a guy or a girl, but they, they're out there, like I guess they were doing their shopping because they got that bag, and then they're standing in front of a tank. Like that's someone standing up to try to do the right thing, and it requires sacrifice, and it's dangerous, and that's why typically you don't want to do that unless it's dire, So I'm going to go ahead and break my promise that I wouldn't talk about prisoner's dilemma and talk about it with you guys. One thing that I experienced in all my years of therapy and seminars and all that kind of stuff, the game is called different names. I played it under the name Red Black Game, and basically the game is Prisoner's Dilemma. You in the seminar that I went through, they actually do an activity where you're like, you buddy up with somebody, and then you do an activity where you're like looking into that person's eyes and you're complimenting them, and you're, you know, just sort of reaffirming that, you know, you love them, you love everyone, you love yourself, you know, like everything's great, you know, nothing has to be bad or good or anything like that. It can just be, you know, wonderful. And then they split up your buddy, and they put those people in a room, and then they put you in a room, and then they say, here are the rules. And then the way they played it was red-black game, and at the very top of the scoreboard to tell you how to keep score is black. So if one team votes black and the other team votes black, you both get +3, right? +3 points. If one team votes red, whatever team votes red gets 5 points, and the other team, I think, loses 5 points or 3 points or something like that. And then if both teams vote red, that's what it is. Yeah, they both lose 5 points. So that's the prisoner's dilemma. And I've played the game. You do it for 10 frames like bowling. And typically everyone has to vote, right? Because everybody's vote counts. And in some versions of the game, it requires a unanimous vote. In other versions of the game, it only requires majority vote. And again, those are both parallels to society. And then the results come in. So I've played the game at least a dozen times, and I've even played versions of it where one group, those of us that have already played the game, right, and have quote unquote learned the lesson, and then gone into another room and played it against people who haven't. Guess what? The results are still the same. People don't trust each other. It is horrible. And a lot of times it breaks down and just becomes this, Lord of the Flies kind of bullshit. And so, and it brings up a lot of good questions about,
who are we really? And why do we forget that we all love each other and that we want to be successful, right? It's better if everyone is successful, not just some people. And so then
you got to understand that how that parallels in life. Like if you learn how to lie, like the Ricky Gervais movie where he becomes the first guy in the world to realize that you can lie, and how much of an advantage you have over people that are not willing to lie, right? So that's the advantage of voting red, is that you're like, nope, I vote to fuck you. I vote to, it's me. And guess what? There's a lot of money in that. There's a lot of dominance, and but it leads to a whole other world of hierarchy and dog eat dog and all that kind of bullshit. And so, for me, after playing it, the first time I played it was in '89, and I was a wreck. I was 16, and I played it with a great man who was the facilitator at the time. His name was Mark Lewis. Mark, he really set a great model for me to aspire to. The way that we played it was, and what's funny is there was the seminar even gave us like previews. Like one of the things that they sent in the newsletter or the welcome letter when I heard about it, and I told you guys this story before too, which was that I was like 14, and I was looking for blank tapes in my dad's closet to record over and make a mixtape, and I got a cop way back there. I'm going to go ahead and get over. But I'm going to go ahead and maybe I got to pause it. It wasn't a cop. It was a fucking NASA Captain America nerd. God damn it. So anyways, 16, looking for blank tapes to make my little mixtape so I can go out and skateboard by myself, because I was completely unsupervised, and if I was going to do what the fuck I wanted to do, I wanted to just go fucking skate in my little shitty town of Gilbert. And so anyways, I started reviewing one of the tapes, and one of the tapes was my dad and his wife at the time were having problems, and they went to a trusted psychic, and the psychic was actually quite accurate, and it was very spooky. Not that I believe in that shit. A lot of those things are, you know, again, it's just a trick. But anyways, one of the things that she recommended and asked my father was, she says, there's a program called Omega Vector. And she's like, are you interested in that? He's like, no, I'm not interested in any of that bullshit. Well, I heard it, and I thought that was really curious. And one of the things that the psychic said was that, she says, your son Patrick will excel in this program. So she wanted to make that recommendation for me. And so then I hear this, and I'm just like, whatever. Well, I think I ended up having a fallout with my dad. My dad was, you know, he beat me up, and I was in a first offenders program, so we got the cops involved, and I told you guys all that story. And so anyways, I ended up living with my mother, and Len, my mom, came home one day, and she's like, I have the best program for you. It's called Omega Vector. Here, read about it. And so when she said that, it, like, I remembered the tape. And I remembered that, and so in the mind state that I was in right there, it was like, this is kismet. This is like meant to be. This is like important. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll go. And then she was like, oh my God, I'm so great. You're going to have a wonderful thing. And so at the time, my mom was going through, of course, recovery, and she had turned me on to a lot of that stuff. And at 14, I was, you know, I didn't know I was depressed, and you know, basically had PTSD and a bunch of other side effects of just, you know, living in an abusive, dysfunctional household. And so I drove, and every mistake that was keeping me from success showed up getting to the seminar. And I even showed up late, and they let me in, and I felt really bad because I'm like, here's my destiny, right? That's the way I felt at the time. Here's my destiny, and I'm fucking late to it. Like, that's, like, I was just in tears. And when they started the program, I think it was Mark Lewis, and then the other Mark, the Australian Mark. I don't remember Anne-Marie until later, but anyways, no, I think it was Anne-Marie. But I think she was just there for the first night or so. Anyways, Anne-Marie is the one who runs the program now. But here I was, 16. I'm fucking late. I can't find the building. You know, I waited to the last minute. I didn't scout out the thing. I left late. Traffic was difficult. I live in the East Valley. At the time, the seminars were over there on Peoria and the I-17, and that's a little bit of a drive. And but I showed up, and I just wept on the first night, and I just was like, I feel like I finally reached my destination about why I had suffered and why I had gone through all this stuff. And so that was the weekend that I first played the red-black game. And like I said, Mark Lewis was the facilitator for the game anyway. I think he was, yeah, through the whole weekend. But also Greg and Barb Fry, I love you guys. You were so helpful in my discovery and my progress, and they're probably dead by now. But they were a really wonderful knockout couple that did this work, and it wasn't paid or anything like that. They just did it because they could. And but anyways, so when we played the red-black game, Mark Lewis did something exceptional, which was that he, at frame 5, we were tied up. And he went and got the captains of each team and brought them together and asked them if, like, they wanted to negotiate anything, if they wanted to do anything. And I had remembered that on the newsletter, the welcome letter, one of the things that they mentioned was introducing WinWin Concepts. And I had remembered, and I go, this is it. This is the WinWin concept. And right there on the top of the scoreboard is black, black. If everybody votes black, everybody wins. Right? So, and later, Mark even gives the example, which was that, what if you have the cure for cancer or can save the world? What do you do with that? And in the game, I didn't do anything. I sat on my hands. It was horrible, and it just ate me alive because I knew I had the answer and I didn't do anything about it. And of course, later, and I'll talk about that in another video, which is the, what do you do with that information? What does that mean? And of course, the captains came back from the fifth set and the fifth frame, and whatever. I don't even remember the results, because what ends up happening is one side slaughters the other. One side reveals that it's more in their favor to vote red because it favors them. And the only thing that ruins that is when the other team votes red as well, right? -5 is when both teams vote red. And, it's a game, and you don't really think about the consequences, and you're like, you're basically like, fuck it, let's go for it. We're here to win, right? We're here to win. And it was devastating. To this day, when I can smell and feel the room, the building, it brings back so many memories and breakthroughs, and just sort of realizations that this voice that I've had inside of me ever since I was a kid. It's important to speak up, is what I discovered. And then later in later years, when I played the game, you realize how much is at risk. And a lot of times in real life, if you think about, I grew up in during the Iron Curtain, and the stories from East versus West Germany were, those were real things that happened, and things that people risked in order for freedom it's just, I don't know, that's not in the zeitgeist anymore. People and people don't, the only thing they have is movies to remember the Holocaust, and it's, it's taught like it's, everybody learn their lesson about the Holocaust, be nice to Jews. Like, that seems to be the solution, the final solution to that moral, and it's ridiculous. It's so much more nuanced, and so much more. There's so many more details, and believe me, I thought about it for about a month now, about revealing this to you guys, and asking you to explore the red-black game, Prisoner's Dilemma. And I remember when I was staff, actually, because later on, when I had my shit together and I was on my own, I actually was going to the seminars, and then they invited me on to be staff, which was always my life dream, to be able to provide the same sort of guidance that Mark had given me, that both Marks had given me, that Anne-Marie had given me, that Greg and Barb Fry had given me, and to be that example. Because again, I grew up with no parents, and I wanted to be the person that I wish existed, right? So that was it. And even as a staff member, and I already know how the game is supposed to go, and I know the reasons why they do things. It's basically like a ritual. It's what it really is. But it's just a game. But it was, of course, super fascinating to watch it from the staff perspective, to just be the scorekeeper and watch these people duke it out and figure it out. Come on in. I'm just doing a video about the red-black game.
Oh,
okay. Okay, so we're gonna go to let's see, we gotta go to Recoil, and then I don't know if I'm gonna have you go to the bank, or I'm gonna stop by the bank. It depends on what Larry's got for me. So, but so I was just talking about when I was staffing, and I'd watch people play the red-black game.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually another game that is played in the more advanced levels of this particular seminar organization, which again is called Omega Vector, and you can go to, I think it's omegavector.org, and you can watch Anne Marie, and she's got all kinds of good messages to say. And one of the things that I've been thinking about for the last month is that experience that I had about sitting on my hands and not doing anything. So one of the difficulties I figured out was that most of you will never be exposed to the red-black game. And as staff, I remember, I'll call her out. I remember Anne Marie bitching about Dr. Phil. I was going to say Uncle Phil. That's a different show. But Dr. Phil he made a couple episodes about it. And I remember sitting in staff one time, we would do meetings and basically like a prayer before we would open up for everybody, and just to help us focus and be mindful and things like that. And I remember not arguing with George. George Adair was the guy that founded the program. And we were sitting there in staff, and he made an observation where he talked about how, what we're doing is sacred work, and to think about that this work was done in temples in, ancient Rome and Greece. And he made some sort of observation about how, we were there voluntarily. We could be doing all kinds of things on our weekend, and we're not. We're choosing to do the work, and it's completely unpaid. And it's our honor to be able to provide this safe environment for people to explore themselves and their personalities and the interactions that they have, basically like a sandbox for them to experiment. And I sort of chuckled, which I understand my chuckle drives people crazy, because usually there's, especially the wife, so usually they're talking about something serious, and again, this is my PTSD from growing up in a dysfunctional household, just like that right there, just that one, which is that I find certain things ridiculous, and the way that I respond to them is through laughter and humor, and that's what makes me a good writer and comedian and a lot of other things. That's the way that I handle these situations. So, but I sort of interrupted, and I was just speaking from the heart. I was just streaming the consciousness from the light above, for lack of a better word. And I had suggested, I said, hey, what if, the limited number of people in society back then, it's like a direct proportion. It's a ratio. That this work will always exist in the public, but there's more people now, right? There's a larger population of the world now, and the proportion of people that are doing the work, that are solving these, internal issues for themselves. What if the ratio is the same? And that, because at the time, the program was real popular, and they were filling up classrooms, and people were signing up for seminars, and it just seemed like it was very popular. And the whole project is run on just donations, and when you can pay your bills every month, you're like, that's a success. Especially again, this work is like sacred work that you're not going to see in a AA meeting. You're not going to read in a self-help book, and it's experiential. And again, I can understand why they want to keep that, it's not secret, but just not talk about it publicly. And there's one other lesson that they talk about, not so much now, but it was, they probably should do it now, which was that I remember Mark Lewis talking about that there was an experiment they did in some sort of island where they were dropping off sweet potatoes to these monkeys. And the monkeys were like, these sweet potatoes are rad. Thank you for dropping these. And the islands were all separate. And what happened was, one group of monkeys figured out that they could rinse off the sand from the sweet potato. And then again, these monkeys are all separated by islands, right? So they don't have a way to communicate to one another. And all the monkeys were washing the sand off from the sweet potatoes. Now, again, I don't know if this story is true. I learned it, fucking 30 years ago, whatever it was, and 35 years ago. And the idea, though, that they understand it now as quantum communication and quantum intelligence, and that we all communicate. Jesus, guys, it's been red for a while. Yeah, I'm trying to go. Quantum intelligence happening there. So anyways, the idea is that the reason why some of the people were doing the work was to experience that point in society, which is where all of society wakes up and starts living those lessons and living those truths that we can all be. It's not like Kumbaya. That's some bullshit right there. The feelings that you get from Kumbaya, right? Which is, if you guys don't know that, it's an old song, and a lot of hippies stand around holding hands and just are like, everything's happy, everything's great, and it's like, because you're on drugs. I do not like promoting that, and I don't like that woo-woo shit when they start talking about, the laws of attraction and write things down and the universe will move around. No, that's not how stuff works. Stop that bullshit. The reality is that your life requires you to take control and make conscious decisions, and sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, but it's to have that conviction to do the right thing, the thing that you feel in your heart. And so that's what I've been feeling for the last month, and I wanted to tell you guys about this. The biggest reason is because I want to see that happen with all of us monkeys, is to start washing the sand off of our fucking sweet potatoes and caring about each other, and not allowing, like, Jeep people, right? There's a Jeep person. Not allowing stupid Jeep people to ruin my life and ruin my day, and that I can love this human even if they hurt me, right? Just like if you see a dog that's injured, right, and the dog, of course, is being protective about their paw or whatever's injured, they don't mean to bite you. It's just that they don't know what else to do. And so it's having that sort of understanding and allowance of society in general. It helps. It's that's really the most appropriate coping mechanism. George Adair talked about this, which was that forgiveness is really forgiveness is what heals everything, and that's what is coming. So it's going to be rough, whether the economy collapses and or the aliens reveal themselves, but it seems like the whole turd is going to hit the fan, and it's going to be messy, and there's going to be a thinning of the herd, and I feel like that's the opportunity that you can do to, number one, prepare for it. And what was it? God, it's from a Paris song, which was that the revolutionary must be wise, because if the revolutionary is killed, there's no revolution. So the revolutionary has to be patient and wise, and that's what I want you guys to be. So one of those things is like not focusing on materialism and not focusing on personal gain in a way that sacrifices somebody else. And you can still do that through audio, because again, even if you take this experience, even if you go through the game of the red-black game, even if you do all those things like I have, you can't save everybody, and it's not your job to save everybody. And that's one of the reasons why I make these unpopular videos, is because I'm not trying to reach the populations. I'm trying to reach the people who want to be reached, right? If you want to get a reach around, I'm the guy to reach you around. Not everybody wants to reach around from a big, strong man, okay? But the idea is to find those that are receptive and share these ideas with you and help guide you the way that a parent would, or basically like a brother or someone that cares about you. And I want to vote black, but it's important to know when it's appropriate to vote red. And typically that's when someone is abusing you, whether it's a government or a boss or a spouse or whatever. And that's really the only way to stop it. And that's just nature, right? Somebody was talking about the bees the other day. They were like, these goddamn Chinese bees are taking over the killer hornets or whatever, and those are bee killers. And they're like, oh, what about the bees? The bees are going to solve that fucking problem themselves, okay? Now, do we need to be spraying a bunch of pesticides? No, but we breed way more bees than would ever happen naturally in nature, so it's fine. But they're worried about the hornets. Well, guess what? The bees are probably most likely going to find a solution against the fucking hornets. So, also the other thing is, how much do we meddle in other people's business, right? How much do banks meddle in your business by cheating you out of your labor and making money off of your backs, of you not knowing things? And I talked earlier about the kind of employees that employers want. Remember, every time you say employer, think of slave master. And every time you say employee, think of slave. Because that's exactly what it is. It's just a more open format where, technically you can come and go as you please, but, how far are you going to get with no car, with no money, with no housing? Especially in like a condition like this. Like right now our AC's out, but fuck, I cut a hole in the fucking bedroom and stuck an air conditioner in there. Ran a big heavy extension cord. Speaking of which, Wesley Montgomery, I still have your extension cord from when you and your brother were fucking chopping down my trees, and you left that beefy extension cord, and that's what I've been using to power my air conditioner. Thank you very much for that. If you want it back, you can come get it. Anyways, you do what you can to adjust, and you do what you can to survive, but never forget of who you are and who you want to be. And again, just because you do have, literally, if you had the cure for cancer, guess what? You would be assassinated if you tried to patent it. So don't patent it. And if you have an idea of how to make, ICE engines, which is an internal combustion engine, run off of water, don't patent it. Just give it away. But the best thing that you can do is get financially secure, which is basically retired, which is where you have enough passive income to cover your needs, and it also helps to downsize your needs. Right? If you're just like in some little trailer out in the desert, that's your threshold is very low, and so that gives you a lot of extra cash to do whatever the fuck you want to do. Right? It gives you a lot more freedom instead of being stuck in some McMansion that is literally 2 feet from your neighbor. You can hear them flushing their fucking toilet. Jesus Christ. And your AC bill is like mine, like $800 to $1,000 a month, and your note is $3,600 a month. That's fucking crazy. You can downsize from that, and I would love to help you figure out how to do that. And one of the ways that I'm doing it is basically collecting affordable housing across Texas. Most of them are going to be warehouses, and I want to make them basically centers, like robot underground centers, for people in the community to come together and do group projects and learn self-sufficiency. And also, again, like I talked about, did I talk about it in the other video? Was coming into a small town and basically taking over. And the only thing you have to do is just be transparent. You have to do a better job than they do, which is if you're transparent about all the corruption that's been happening and the money that they've been siphoning off, you give back to the community, and then you educate everybody about what is the right thing to do and what is the proper way to run a community. Guess what? You're going to be a fucking hero. Now, are some people not going to like that? Yeah. there's a lot of what they call blue bloods, is people that have already established the corruption in the community, and that's what they survive on, right? That's why oftentimes the chief of police is the one that's running the prostitution and the drugs of the town. That's why the machine works as well as it does, is because he controls the in and out of all the money, and he gets a cut of it. And he has the last say. He has the monopoly on violence. And again, that's why the people at the top, it's important in order to have a free and open society that these people are not only held accountable, but everything is transparent. And I in my heart, feel like there's enough technology available now to be very open about that, and about the books. Again, we'll talk more. I actually want to wrap it up and talk to Sherry a little bit about her session. But I'll do some more videos about this, and of course, car audio. And thank you for tuning in, and thank you for watching, guys. I love you. I'll talk to you later.